So, how's your morning? Let's start from there. How's your morning going?
My morning. I'm just
Yeah,
not long awake, to be fair. I mean, it's snow outside, and it's freezing cold. So yeah, it's now what 9 o'clock in the morning.
yeah,
Nobody's around because it's so cold, and it's you know what snow is like. It's yeah, it's freezing. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So, you just won the cup and you are back with the family.
yeah. I
And
mean, yeah. Well, we won the cup, and then I got sick, and that delayed the return to Scotland as quick as what I wanted. But yeah, I'm back here now, and I'm with my dad here, who's been pretty sick, and in fact we're going to go to the hospital this afternoon to follow up on some of his health issues. So that's good that I'm here for that. So everything's as well as possibly could be at the moment.
so, before starting about, many people want to know about NSL and what goes behind it and everything. But I want to start with you. Why you are a coach? Like what inspires you to be coach every day? Because it's tiring job to manage so many people around and convince people about your ideas. So what was inspiration when you started it, and how you have kept the motivation going for so long?
Well, the reason that I started coaching was I just stumbled into it because I was playing at a club where the young players weren't getting any encouragement at all, and some of the senior players, like myself, they said to me, "They said, look, what you do with the kids is like nobody else does that. The manager never even looks at them. You need to take a little bit more of a proactive role in this." Anyway, the committee came and spoke to me, and they said, "Look, we'd really like you to get involved in the coaching." And it just spiraled from there. It was just that the manager at the particular time, and as you know, I mean, managers are all about getting results, and
Yeah.
they don't pay attention to the young players. Whereas I was cautious of what was actually going on with some of these younger lads, because some of them were like quite gifted, and they just were going nowhere quickly. So that was how that's how I actually stumbled into it. And it was funny because the season finished, and the manager at the time, his contract was continuing for another year in the committee, and everyone says, "Oh, we want you to be involved in all this kind of thing again." But then the manager says, "No, I can't have you because you're just too dangerous in regards to um, everybody following my philosophy rather than following his." So that was when it went like AWOL. It went pear shaped there in regards to that. But yeah, that was football, and then I continued on to playing after that again. But yeah, I mean the kids were just neglected, and the senior player says, "Hey, you're good at like encouraging them and everything like that." And the club, like I previously said, they identified it, and that's how I really got involved in it.
And everyday motivation towards it, when you wake up in the morning and when you have to go and coach the team, how you have kept motivated yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm not really a person that needs to be motivated. I mean, I'm self-motivated. I mean, I hear clubs saying, "Oh, we need motivational speakers and things like that." I never ever needed motivation to win football games. I was just like driven from within. It was just one of these natural things that I. I mean, even there was one contract I was negotiating, and they said, "Look, as a bonus scheme." I says, "Yeah, as a bonus scheme." And they says, "Well, it's like you win, right?
Yeah.
Draw, and you lose. You lose, you don't get any bonus at all. You draw, you get a small bonus. You win." I says, "Well, I'm going to get the bonus. I'm going to get the win bonus every game." They says, "No, but you can't." I says, "I am." I says, "Because I play to win every game." I says, "And I'll give you no less." if we draw or we lose than if we win. But we can't do it like that. I says, oh, well, it's okay then. I won't sign the contract. I says, that's it, finished. Bye bye. Oh, no, no, no. Hold on a second. Hold on a sec. I says, no. I says, you've just told me that that's not going to happen. I says, I don't need motivation. I says, I, you'll get the same performance out of me every single game. Anyway, it came to the end of the season and that. I says, I'll tell you, I'll strike a deal with you. You keep all the bonuses and put them in an envelope and put them in the club safe. I says, and I'll get it to the end of the season. And if you don't think that I'm worthy of this, then we can take it a little bit further. End of the season, here was it, 22 envelopes in there. I says, so was I worth that? And the guy says, he says, yeah. He says, will you play again next season? So that was it. I never needed motivation at all.
And why I wanted to ask this question is because even young guy like me, there is every day the crave for the motivation more than discipline. Every day we want to get excited about things rather than getting the things done. So from the experience guy like you and who have managed so much, and even older than us with more experience, so that's why I wanted to ask how you kept on going for so long.
I think discipline's number one. I
Yeah,
mean, I've worked with some great coaches, like good managers in the time. I mean, when I was in Australia, in particular, I mean, David Mitchell he was a, he was a good manager. Ian Ferguson, he was another. He was disciplined, he was a disciplinarian, and they were excellent. And some of these things that I picked up along my way, and I mean, that's just two that I've mentioned. Two great football people, and I mean, they've been. How would you describe it? I mean, Fergie won 9 in a row with Rangers, played for
yeah,
Scotland. Mitch played. He played all over Europe. Eintracht Frankfurt. He was at Chelsea. He was at Rennes. He played. He was a pioneer of
yeah,
Australian football. I mean, he was one of the young boys that left the country and went out in this footballing journey. And
yeah.
I mean, he's a bit of an unsung type hero in Australia in regards to people don't really understand at the level that he actually played at. Um, but I mean, these guys, I mean, they were invaluable in my learning curve in management in football.
So you have touched two topics when you said about young people, the philosophy clashing with the one, and recently when I looked up your LinkedIn, you have reposted Neil Warnock. He talks about you can have any coaching license you want, but man management is the one of the most important thing in football still. So I wanted to ask you a question because there is something even from my perspective when I see things, the black and white. Most people doesn't talk about gray areas. They like to see things black and white. And one of the most many people want to say that Pep Guardiola isn't the man manager, and Ancelotti is the man manager. But when I see it, I think Pep Guardiola is man manager. Because how have you kept motivating these bunch of players to win travel, to do 100 points every time? Do you think that side of things is less talked in nowadays? More importantly, putting more emphasis on saying underlap, tactics, half space, this kind of buzzwords rather than what's really goes behind.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's always new trends coming up, and there's all new fancy words. I mean, you
Yeah,
mentioned underlap there,
yeah,
um, right? I mean, you mentioned half space. I mean, these were all words that were created over time. I mean, in the '60s and everything. Or let's go to the early '80s. I mean, one of my good friends, he was at a particular club. I won't mention it, and this guy was a high-profile manager. And I'm not going to mention him either, but he would be a household name. Anyway, one of these star players, it was bought for a considerable amount of money. Went up to him and he turned around to him and he said, if you're wanting to know why you're not playing, just have a look at yourself. I never bought you for, and it was an extremely large sum of money, right, to be coaching you. And that's, I mean,
yeah,
that was at the elite level.
yeah,
That was at the elite level. And I mean, I'm talking about these guys were players that had played in like the Premier League and played international football at World Cups. And that was the answer that he was given. So, I
yeah,
mean, yeah, I mean, I mean, Pep's, I'll tell you who's really, really good,
yeah,
in my opinion,
yeah,
is Postecoglou. Ange Postecoglou is exceptional. And I mean,
yeah,
I came across him in Australia and he came across as a bit um, doer or a little bit like not overly, um, how you describe it. He wasn't forthcoming.
yeah,
But he was a nice guy. I mean, he was a lovely guy. And then what he did at Brisbane and what he did in Melbourne, and then when he went with the national team, and then he went away across to Japan, and he went to
yeah,
Celtic. I mean,
yeah,
he's had success wherever he's gone. And you cannot be a lucky coach or you cannot be a bad coach if you're having success in all these regions. And I mean, he's gone from like Australia to Japan, Japan to Scotland, Scotland to England. So I
yeah,
mean, he's exceptional. And in saying that, I mean, he won the Asian Cup with Australia as well. So he's, I would say that he's right up there at the top with the elite managers in the world. And he's a humble guy. I mean, he really is. I mean, the times that I've met him, he's been like really. He's not over boisterous, but he's not like a in the corner there, you know,
yeah,
shy.
yeah,
But
yeah,
he's definitely. I mean, I've watched his teams over the years, and yeah, the style of play and the philosophy he has never changes. I mean, once he's got a style of play, and he's in the camp there, that's it. So you apply the individual tasks and the team task, and then everything's good. But you don't do the role. You don't follow the guidelines. Then you're going to be in the outside.
yeah.
Mm.
So you have touched and you have also touched in Ants Postocoglou's philosophy. So how would you describe your philosophy if you have to
It's
describe
11.
it? Yeah,
My philosophy is 11v11. If we can get the ball in the net more than they can, we'll win. Um,
yeah. Well,
no, look,
This
I
that's
mean,
what Sondites told once. Sondites once the Burnley manager, now he's managed Everton. He says nothing made, just we just put ball back in the net. So that's why.
yeah, look, I mean, I sometimes think that coaches get too technical, particularly in the youth development phases, and then on the other hand, you've got a lot of coaches. It's in clubs, particularly in Asia. It's all about winning at all cost. I mean, you've got boys at 12 years of age that are winning at all cost, winning at all cost. 14, winning at all cost, winning at all cost. Yeah, that I mean, the reason that there's a mechanism like to score goals and to win games, yeah, that's important, but not at all costs. I mean, I've seen some terrible things in my time that in regards to the coaching with the younger generations, and I think that you've got to try and get the kids playing good football to start with, and then try and progress into trying to win games. Because playing good football and winning games are byproduct of playing good football, and that's the way that I look at that. But some of these development coaches that are running around there, they are more worried about winning than what
Yeah,
the players are, and they get more of a buzz out of it. And I've seen kids, and believe me in this one, I've seen kids playing under 10 competitions, and the coach is standing there with one of those mock checks for like in in different countries. So it was like ringgit when I was in Malaysia, and it was bloody what was it? Uh, I'm trying to think about the currency. I've forgotten it. See, old
Yeah.
age. I'm going in the head now. When I was in Indonesia, it was a currency, and I've forgotten it. But hey, I'll remember it. Don't worry. I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And they were more excited with this mock check for like 3,000 ringgit or 10,000 ringgit for whatever it was. And they're like this, yeah. And that really annoyed me because I don't think that youth sport should be getting money for winning these kind of trophies. I don't, I disagree with that. I think you should be playing it for the spirit of the game type of thing and for the development of the game. People maybe call me stupid or old fashioned or that, but I mean, I remember growing up as a kid, you used to get a little medal. You used to get a little medal like that,
Yeah.
and and it was that was like really good, and that was what you played for this a little trophy like this, not one of these massive big
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
and like what you're getting today. Because I see some youth kids that are playing like under 10 and that. The trophy is nearly as big as them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's gone a little bit out of proportion there. But yeah, the philosophy. Everybody's got a philosophy. Everybody's got a style. Everybody follows a particular coach in regards to what he does. Or, as an example, I mean, Pep. I mean,
Yes.
lots of people say, "Oh, I want my team to play like Pep and everything." But the thing is, if you play like Pep, you've got to have players like Pep. And
And 115 financial charges.
well, that's it. I mean, I was listening to that yesterday in my bed, um,
Yeah.
early yesterday morning, and I think 120 or something charge,
115 charges. Yeah.
something like that. And they could drop to like Division Two. Now, if they drop to Division Two, are the players going to stay with them? Well, they maybe stay with them if they want to have a bit
I
of.
don't think they will drop. I don't think they will drop. I
Well,
think it's more like political thing than just football, to be very honest.
oh,
So
I'm not quite sure about the political thing.
yeah, I mean I don't think it will happen because Everton got
You're
deducted.
sounding you're sounding like a real Asian.
No, no, no.
Is
I'm not a human trafficker. No, no, no.
politics is number one in a lot of the places like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, like when people say like Pep had the best team, my counter argument is he did what was available. For example, he went to Barcelona. He has utilized everything. So I don't think many people disregard Pep with that thing. Like he had the quality in his team, but yeah, that's why he did what he did. I don't think Pep can go to Fulham and make them champion. Sometimes I really do agree coaches are overrated in international football, club football. Sometimes they are criticized for things that are not under their control, and sometimes they are overpraised for the things massively that we sometimes tend to forget it's the players.
Yeah, look, I mean, I remember Roy Hodgson. He was in Australia with
Yeah.
that was what was it? I think it was Fulham in 2029, right? And one of the boys says to Roy Hodgson, What is it that makes you a good coach?" And Roy Hodgson turns around and he says, "If you want to be a good coach, sign good players."
Yeah.
And that was what he said. And
Yeah.
I do believe in what he said there to an extent. But you can have, uh, I mean, you look at teams like Liverpool, right? Some of the players that they've had, or look at Manchester United as present. They've signed like boys in the past, like Cristiano Ronaldo, and they've probably not been a good fit into that dressing room.
Yeah.
And then the manager's got to try and control some of the egos that are inside the changing room. And it can become very difficult when you've got so many stars and so
Yeah.
many different nationalities and so many different religious cultures. Um, it becomes quite different because if you've got like particularly like in Scotland, you've got like Catholics, right? And you've got that in other countries as well, but you got Catholics, and then you got Protestants, and then you got Muslims, and then you got Hindus, and you've got all these cultures put together. And as a coach, sometimes, and I found this particularly in Asia, you
Mhm.
oh coach, it's such and such a festival, coach. It's such and such. It's Hari Raya. It's oh, what was the one we had in Nepal recently? Tika?
Tika, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Tika. And I mean, and then you've got Christmas for like the Christian but I mean, so you've got all these cultural things, and you're trying to fit them into your so-called football
Yeah,
calendar. And I
yeah.
mean, as you know, with the Muslims, with the fasting and that, it becomes quite difficult because sometimes they're telling you, I don't have enough energy because I'm fasting, and I'm not eating properly, and I'm not sleeping properly. And yeah, I found that sometimes the religious thing was a little bit of a difficult situation because you were trying to manage these people because they were all from different faiths. They all wanted different holidays. They all wanted different
Mhm.
food, in regards to certain like halal things. And yeah, so it became, yeah, sometimes it as a manager it becomes difficult because you're always trying to please everybody. And the religious thing, I found, was quite challenging at times.
Yeah, yeah. Especially Asia, it's little bit more.
Yeah, because you've got, I mean, like here in Scotland, right? I mean, you've got there's none of that type of religious thing goes on really.
Mhm.
Occasionally, you'll have a foreign player that is a Muslim, and and by the way, I'm not having a go at that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, and then they've got some differences in like Hari Raya and some of the festivals and things like that. But I mean, a lot of the British boys, they just get on with it, and Christmas, Easter, is probably about the only festival that they possibly you would describe.
yeah.
Mm.
So let's go back to NSL. The moment Lalitpur cleanses the trophy. So one of the things you have mentioned quite often times is Lalitpur was a premier team, even in the press conference, and the team everyone wants to beat. So with starting, you got quite good result versus Butol, then draws, and then again in the middle, little bit little bit of lacking, I would say, with compared to how you started. And then in the end, two losses, Ilam, then Kathmandu. But in qualifiers, again, the same starting momentum, you go and carry on. As a coach, when you now sit and see the things, even tactically, or it was maybe a physical part of things, or how would you analyze whole NSL for you?
Well, I mean, we had a bit of problem at the beginning,
Yeah,
um, and the reason being is that we had these national team players that came in, but we only got them like 3 days or something before the first game of the season,
yeah,
and then we had another national, John Cantalana, Jonathan, right? So
yeah,
Jonathan, um, he was playing at Palestine in the World Cup qualification, and he got injured, so
mm,
he couldn't come, right?
join,
So
yeah,
he was just injured, so we had to replace him. Um, but there straight away there was 5 players there that were like key players,
mm,
that weren't even with us. So at the
mm,
very, very beginning, I mean, I arrived in early October, 11th of October, and I mean, we hadn't signed any like foreign players. I think we had one signed or something, which was Karim, which was
yeah,
known to the management. I mean, the management signed him because they knew him. Um, and then the other ones, when I arrived, then got them boys on board. But it was difficult because the training facility was, it was just shocking. It was just like horrible. I mean, like I was dashed, and I was like, it was just like uneven, and it was just rotten. Um, so you were trying to facilitate training sessions on something that was like dangerous. I mean, if you'd gone to places like Australia, you wouldn't train on that. It would be classified as dangerous,
Yeah.
and they're telling me that this is one of the better facilities,
Oh yeah.
and I just so we just were facilitating training sessions to give the guys that were there, give them some kind of idea of how we were going to try and play, and then we
Mm.
were trying to identify some younger players. So that was what we were trying to do, and I mean, we turned over lots of young players in regards to seeing if they were up to playing at the level, because it was always our intention not to sign a full squad of like senior type players. It was always like we were always going to try and add possibly 3, 4 young players to the squad to try and give them some kind of exposure. Now you maybe think that was mad, and I was actually questioned about it several times. Why do you want to do that? I says, and my answer to that, I says, were you ever young? Yes. Did you ever get a chance to play? Yeah, but when I was a little bit older. I says, yeah, but if you were given a chance when you're a little bit younger, would you have been a
Mm.
better player? Yeah, possibly. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give some of these young boys the greatest opportunity to develop playing alongside some of these more mature players that have quite good quality. I mean, you've got 4 national team players from Nepal. You've got um, Papa. You've got Jeff. You've got
Mm.
um, Emu. I mean, who would have thought that Kushal, for instance, I'll use him because he's probably
Yeah.
one of the more profile young players now. Who would have ever thought that he'd have been playing in the NSL and playing in the same team as somebody that had played in the Olympic Games, got a bronze medal in the Olympic Games for Nigeria, played for Standard Liège, played for Anderlecht, right? Played for some of the big teams in the United Arab Emirates, and this little boy here that came from, I don't know the name of his village, but some small place in Nepal was playing alongside one of these boys that had been possibly being described as a superstar as a young boy. And
Mm.
I mean, that's invaluable for him. That's an invaluable experience. Just rubbing shoulders with him and seeing him train, because as well, I'll use him as an example. He always gave a lot in training. He always give like he would always. I'll tell you, Christmas Day, he came
Yeah.
up to me. He says, "Coach, it was 8 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day, and there was all this dew on the synthetic, so it was all like water. It was on
Yeah.
top of it." He says, "Coach," he says, "this is just like Europe, is it?" I says, "Yeah, Mo." He says, "It's great." He says, "It's great. We'll have a great training session today because it's this is I like this." And you're
Yeah.
talking about a mature player, and he was excited about training. So if we can transfer some of that enthusiasm into boys like Yakushal, and put that into his chemical makeup or his DNA, then that's like really really positive, and that'll
Yeah.
put him in good stead for the future. And hopefully, some of that will just rub off. So when he becomes a mature player, he'll be saying, "I remember when I trained with this player. He was from Nigeria, and this is what he used to say." And he'll just pass on some of that invaluable information.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think even Aditya Sakke, Aditya, even whenever you call him for the substitution before qualifiers, and whenever Lalitpur had the game, I always went to the stadium, and to be very honest, I would just look at you. I just wanted to look at you. When you just being a piece of paper, I just look what he is saying, what might he be saying. So there were sequence when I always see when you were intriguing the press. You will always say press, and you would appreciate very little things of young players. And always I noticed that again when Aditya was playing on the left, every time he does the nice sequence, maybe he forces the mistake with his press, you would be there to appreciate. So I think even in the short span of the league, it isn't a big league. It's just just 1 month league. You have given three players chance to play. If we say Deola, Aditya Sakke, Oswin, who played in place of Karim. So one of the things you've touched before about giving young player chance, I think it was quite good experience for you to even winning plus having your face stamped on it.
Yeah, well, look, I think you've forgotten one guy. I think Sanjit.
Yeah,
Sanjit was
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
look.
yeah,
I'll tell you a little story about Sanjit, and a lot of people would not know this at all. Lovely, lovely individual, lovely person. Um, so Sanjit came to training. The very first training session Sanjit came to, he collapsed. He collapsed, and he had to go to hospital and get tested because it was it was like an epileptic fit that he had. So he had a
mm,
problem in his with his meninges or something inside his brain. I don't know the medical terminology for it. Anyway, I remember they were saying, look, he's been playing a ridiculous amount of games in Gold Cups or local village cups, and he was tired, and then he's jumped on a bus to come to Kathmandu to join the squad, and it
yeah,
took some ridiculous amount of time, like 20 hours. So
yeah,
he had never had any rest at all, and fatigue and everything had got to him, and he just collapsed. Honestly, he just like
yeah,
that. He fell like a tree, and so we had to send him to get tests, and he got tests done, and he got tests done, and then it came to playing. So he got the go ahead to train again. So I thought, oh, that's fine. I mean, I was not vindictive or I had nothing against him because he couldn't train. He just joined back in with the training, and I says, right, that's okay, that's good. So we had a problem at left fullback, and he wasn't left footed at all. And I said to him, I said, look, just get the ball and just play it simple. I says, I know you're not naturally left footed, so biomechanically you can't like
mm.
pass with your left foot and
Wipe the cross. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I says, just sit in, just sit in like a three, right? So just sit in there like a three,
Back three,
and
yeah.
and we'll be right. Even though we played it as a back four, Sanis pushed on and
Up
pushed
on,
it. So we did it like that. So that was part of our game plan that Sanjit we'd play in there. He'd play nice and simple. He wouldn't do anything out with his ability, and he was like really, really successful. I mean, he never did anything really wrong at all in the competition. Anyway, one of the coaches he says, "Oh, you're going to change Sanjit?" I says, "Why are we going to change Sanjit?" He says, "Well, he's not a left fullback." I says, "But has he played well?" Yeah. I says, "So why should he not play again?" Yeah, but he's not a left fullback. I says, "No, but I said to you, the question I asked you, has he played well in the game?" He says, "Yes." I says, "So why should he not play in the next game?" And you've given me the answer, he's not a left fullback. Yeah, okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. So he'll
Hmm.
play again. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it was a case of that I just identified that the kid could play that. We tried to refine or perfect some of his football actions for the specific moment. And he went on and he played every single minute that
Yes.
we played in the NSL. And if you speak to the boy, he's a lovely boy, and I would imagine he would respect myself and my fellow coach and staff because we stuck by him because we, in a time of need, in regards to he needed our medical assistance because he'd, he'd collapsed and everything. We'd stuck by him. The club stuck by him by paying for all the medical treatments and everything, the scans, because I think it was CT scans, brain scans. I think it was all these kind of things done.
BCG, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so they did all these things for him to check. It was like a duty of care, and they stood by him, and then me as a coach, I stood by him because he never did anything wrong. And I thought he was exceptional. I would have thought that he would have been in like the team of the competition,
yeah,
and I think he was even up for the emerging player.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but the thing was that we couldn't win everything of all the prizes. And believe it or not, the guy who won the prize for
yeah. He was
emerging,
with your team.
yeah, he came and trained with us at the beginning of the season. I said to the guy, because I used to call him Zlatan
Yeah, ponytail.
because because he
Yeah,
used to have this like ponytail.
yeah,
I says, because I'm terrible with names. I really am. I'm hopeless with names. And I said to him, I says, look, I says, you're more than welcome to stay with us. I
mm,
says, the only thing I cannot guarantee is that you'll get game time. I says, because we've got like boys like CC, we've got boys like BB, we've got, at that stage,
Nikhil,
Jonathan
yeah,
Cantwell was coming. And then we had,
Anil,
we had Anil Margin, Anil Rai,
yeah,
and then we had, what do you call him? He just did his knee operation. See, I'm terrible with names.
Vivek,
Um, oh God.
Vivek,
Now, BB, he had his hamstring. That's why he
yeah,
missed it in the final. But I
yeah.
mean, there was a young lad that had a knee
Aditya,
reconstruction. No, no. It was, oh gosh, I told you I'm terrible with names. But he was a good player. He was like
yeah.
he was a good young player, and he just happened to get his knee.
Roshan,
Uh, sorry, what was that?
Roshan.
Roshan.
Yeah,
That's it,
right.
Roshan.
Yeah.
Roshan Farhan. Roshan.
He
But
started one game in the midfield, in the base of midfield, and I think yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, no, but
yeah,
Roshan was a really good player. So Zlatan, right? He was up against these type of boys to get a position,
yeah.
and I just didn't think he was possibly in that at that level. So I said to him, I said, look, I says, you're more than welcome to stay. I says, I'm not chasing you away. If you want to stay, you can stay. And he says, can I think about it? I says, yeah, you can think about it.
Yeah,
So I think it was about 2 days later he came back to me and he says, Coach, he says, I've got an offer to go to Dungaree.
yeah,
Dungaree, right?
yeah. That's good. Yeah,
Yeah, and I says, well, look, I'll tell you what, you go there and I wish you the best of luck. I says, because you're a nice young man. I says, and never lose that bit. And he went away there, he played some good football for them, and he developed. And at the final, he came up to me and he says, look, he says, thanks very much for everything that you've done for me. Because if it wasn't for you, I possibly wouldn't be here today. And I
mm.
went, oh, well, that's quite pleasant. So all the awards, Lilliput City had some contribution to them. So it
Yeah,
was it was because look, I mean, I'm going to talk about Lilliput now. I mean,
yeah,
when I first arrived there, there was Luza, there was Utsav, who video analysis guy, fantastic, really, really, really good at video analysis and that. Without his help in the video analysis, yeah, again, some of the players would never have developed because we used to send them individual clips of themselves and in training and on game day, and I mean that was his job,
yeah,
and he spent a lot of time sending out. I mean, their phones would have been on full data or something like that because of the clips that were being sent out. But like, so there was Utsav, there was Luza, and there was Rabindra. And Rabindra, as an assistant coach, was like very, very good, quite an intelligent man, very astute, quite a very quiet man. He
mm.
was he wasn't a noisy, rebellious type or anything like that. He was like very, very good. So anyway, we set
Yeah,
out in this little journey, the four of us, and we would go to my hotel room, and when I left the hotel room, all the seats were still inside the hotel room.
yeah,
There was 4 seats, and you don't get 4 chairs in a hotel room, but there was
yeah,
4 in mine because we kept on looking at all these, um, how would you describe transfer markets, uh,
yeah,
clips of players, and I mean
mm.
profiles. If I said that we had 25 profiles of players, it would have been 30. I mean, we had but I had profiles from all over the world. Like, I mean, a lot of people that knew me would contact me and say, "Ah, are you looking for a player or something?" I say, "Yeah, how much do you want?" And they would go, "Da da da." I say, "Look, that's ridiculous." I says, we could not afford." I'll tell you, there was one guy. He says, "God," she says, "I'll come and play for you." I says, "You will?" I says, "Oh, that'd be good." He says, "Yeah." He says, "I want 25,000 USD a month." And I just went silent. I said, I says, "Did I get distorted on the telephone line there?" I says, "How much did you say?" And he said it again. I says, "I'll tell you what." I
That's
says,
more
"I
than the auction budget, I think.
eh?"
That's more than
Yeah.
the auction budget. Yeah.
I says, "Look," I says, "thanks very much for giving us an offer an option, I should say, to signing you." But I says,
Yeah.
"Not at that type of money." I says, "That's like that would be like you add the whole team together, and you might get close to that." But yeah, there was some challenging times. I mean, I had an agent speak to me about, oh, so in the middle to the end of the competition, he says to me, he says, "Coach," he says, "I need you to come to this place, this particular team." I says, "All right, okay." He says, "I need you to come now." I says, "Need me to come now?" I says, "That's impossible." He says, "Impossible?" I says, "Yeah, it's impossible." I says, "Because I'm committed to the end of the competition." He says, "But I need you to go now." And he spoke about money. I says, "No." I says, I'm committed until to this particular project till the end of it." He
Yeah.
says, "They must be paying you a lot of money to stay there." And the perception of this was quite um, about the club and everything, because I mean our budget was our budget, and we wouldn't go over certain things within the budget. I mean, we had some fantastic sponsors. I mean, I was like T10, I was
Yeah.
361. I mean, you know, KG's
Yeah.
big supermarket.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what's it called again?
Bad button. Bad
Eh,
button. Yeah.
Bahanti. Is that
Yeah.
how
Bad
you
button.
pronounce? Yeah, I mean, they were fantastic. I mean, Gandruk were like where we ate every day. Pepe
Yeah.
pizza. If we didn't like some of the local food, you just went in and got some lasagna or pasta or something like that. I mean, so I mean, our management was like really, really
Yeah.
proactive in everything, and I mean
Yeah.
everything that I wanted. I virtually got. I wanted the boys to be dressed all the same. I wanted them to come to meals exactly the same. I wanted them to have foam rollers. I wanted them to have mats for activation sessions or sessions that they had by themselves. I mean, so I mean everything. I'll tell you a funny story. 361 provided all the shoes,
Yeah.
and Big Jeff, right? Big Jeff's got big feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody else got these type of shoes, but Big Jeff had to get another designer shoe because they didn't make him that size.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 361 went to no an end, and they provided him with something that was suitable, and that was good. But everybody used to laugh because Jeff's feet were so big and everybody else was small, and that was it. But yeah, we started off in this. I mean, I'm going on about Lalitpur City.
No, no, it's
Sorry.
fine. I mean,
Um,
you have to. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we started off in this jungle training ground, and there was nothing, and then all of a sudden they created this changing room area. They put like they boxed off this area and cordoned it off and everything, and made a little changing room area out of nothing. And it was quite amazing the extent that they actually went. Ice bars. I mean, we had ice bars when we were at the old changing room, but when we went to Enfa, it just became a bit impossible. And the
Mm.
travelling to get to Enfa, and get back from him for when the heavy traffic was on. I mean, they used to say to me, "Oh, do you want to get a taxi?" I says, "A taxi to training?" They says, "Well, we advise you to go on the back of a bike because it's far quicker." I says,
Yeah.
"Right, I'll do that one. I'll take the." And then Beaver used to take me on the back of his bike. Loser used to take me on the back of his bike. Rabindra, Prabin. I mean, all these boys. They come on, coach, get on the back of my bike. Come on. And we used to go off to training, shoot off to training, and we used to wind in and out of the cars and everything like that. And then I remember one day Beavers put on the brake, and I've gone "Doof," and head the back of his helmet. And he says, and then he turned around to me, he says, "Coach," he says, "what do you want?" He thought I was tapping him
Joking.
back, and
Yeah.
this is me like headbutting the back of his helmet and everything. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've got like lots of fond memories of our Lilliput City Football Club, and I just hope that it develops into something um, bigger.
Bigger and better.
Yeah, because I believe it is the benchmark. I believe there's not another club like it in Nepal, and I
Mm.
mean, I'm not being disrespectful to the other clubs. Um, I know that the people are passionate towards the football. I mean,
Yeah.
boys like Mama. I mean, he's like a die-hard football person. I mean, and you look at Mama. I mean, he's got all them Pepe Pizza shops, and I mean the time and the effort and the money that
Yeah. Of course.
that he puts into Lilliput City was like amazing. I mean, Gandruk. I mean, you'd see everybody there all the time. It was like the unofficial office of Lilliput City.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I spent hours in Gandruk drinking honey, ginger, lemon. Um, I spent hours doing that and going through reports and going through schedules about what we were doing with the planning process and jobs and responsibilities. And we had meetings and everything inside there, staff meetings, because we always had staff meetings every every few days. Um, I mean, that was like headquarters. That was like the HQ of Lilliput City Football Club. Yeah, it was like fun times. Yeah, there was a few times that there was some there was some
Bumps on the road.
questionable. Yeah, there
Yeah.
was a couple of questionable things about. I mean, there was rumours of some naughtiness, but I said, look, as a integrity to the maximum. Um, I mean, there had been discussions of match fixing in other people's games, and that had drawn attention to some of our results. But I said no. I says that's got nothing to do with our performance. We are responsible for our performances. It's not got nothing to do with match fixing at all. Because as you know, and as you've possibly heard, that there were other teams that were doing some things. That was the rumours, but I mean, definitely we were never involved in that type of thing. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you touched upon performance, and one of the thing is, do you think Lalitpur started in a quite heavy pressing zones? From the start, always up to the press, always going for it. And do you think maybe because it's such small time, maybe physicality played the part when it came to later matches? After 2 3 games, maintaining the same level of intensity for a longer
Yeah,
period of time.
you possibly could be right there. I mean, I mean, our intentions, or my intentions to start with, and then it grew with the staff in regards to being our intentions. Were always to press as high up the pitch as we possibly can. Was
Yeah.
always to have high intensity. Was all to be on the front foot. I was asked several times about um, like game plans and strategies, and we weren't flexible and all that kind of thing. And I used to say, well, just have a look because we are. I think that I think we were we started off, and some of the players were finding it difficult to become professional football players every day. Um, I think by the end of it, I think they got used to it, um, and that took 8 to 10 weeks to get used to it. But I mean, we were always on the front foot. We were always trying to play from the back. We were always trying to play through the thirds. We were
mm,
always trying to create as many goal scoring opportunities as we could. We were always trying to play as high up the pitch as we possibly could. We were always trying to press as high up the pitch as we possibly could. Because if we stood off like some of the teams, um, we had to regain 60 metres before we could actually score. So if we could press up in their final third, and if we could win it up in there, we didn't have to expel as much energy.
mm.
It was one of those things, and I mean, I saw many games from the other other
Clubs.
teams,
Mm.
right? And I just thought they were boring. I thought they were just like that. There was no intensity. There was no pressing. There was, and I just used to say I couldn't play like that. I'd have to be like on the front foot. I would have to be pressing. I would have to be trying to keep possession of the
What
ball.
was there any one team other than Lalitpur that you thought, yeah, maybe this team is good, like when you watch the game, yeah, I like the way they play, maybe
No, there was not one that I really liked the way they played. I
other
did.
than Lalitpur, no one.
No, I see. I didn't see anybody that had the same kind of structure. I didn't
Mhm,
see anybody that had the same type of intensity. I didn't
mhm,
see anybody that had like patterns of play. I didn't see anybody that had like there were some combination plays between certain players, but I never saw any real patterns that yeah, that's what they do, or yeah, that's what they do, or that's what they do. And I mean, like I said, and I would go through videos and videos and videos and videos, and
mhm.
but I didn't see any other team that really had a structure. I just didn't see it. Um,
Mhm.
I think a lot of the teams were off the cuff in certain instances. If any team had a little bit of shape or really about them, maybe sometimes Japa maybe had something.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Japa had a little bit of organisation. But then yet again, I think it fell down or broke down with the individual's ability.
Yes.
That's possibly how maybe the coach had it structured, but
Yeah.
maybe it just broke down with the ability. I mean, Dungaree, were they structured? I'm not quite sure. I mean, I always was asked the question, "What about the opposition? Are you worried about them?" I used to say, "No, I'm more worried about ourselves."
Mhm.
I says because we we've got a style of play that we want to try and implement in every single game. We've got a game plan every single game. What we want to try and do. Yeah, the
Mhm.
game plan was similar in the majority of games. We did change it on several occasions. We changed the
Yeah.
formation. We played 4-3-3. We played 4-4-2 flat. We played four
Yeah.
diamond two. We played. I mean, even in the semi final, we played 4-5-0
One.
because we got players sent off.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was always there was always something about us. We always had instructions, or we always had a game plan that we had to type of follow. Um, yes, some players implemented it really, really well. Some of them did it well, and some of them did it good. I would never ever say that in any of the games that we played that there was a player that was rotten, that was poor.
Mhm.
I
Yeah. I
would
mean, that's
mm.
why I wanted to ask you. Like, I mean, I asked earlier. Like, uh, you add the structure, you add the everything, but what do you think maybe the reasons were, like in second game against Pokhara, then against Birgans, it was draw. Like, I'm not saying like you played poorly, but not getting the result over the line at the start after the brilliant start against Butol.
Yeah, well,
What
I
were
mean,
the factors you discussed, after watching those games again?
yeah, well, what happened was that people realised that you became quite a good team. or you were
Mm.
quite a good team. And
Yeah.
then you had players that were playing well above their capabilities. Really, they were playing with like three legs. Um, so every team that played against us wanted to
Mm.
beat us. So I mean, they worked really, really hard, and they worked harder than when they played us than when they played against any other team. I mean, somebody actually said it, Tim, one of the opposition. They said, "You know what? Our competition was all about beating you."
Mm.
I says, "Beating us? Why do you say that?" Now, uh, we it was all about trying to beat you, and if we had beaten you, that would have been the benchmark for us. And I says, "Oh, good, okay, okay." So you were thought upon as being, and I said this in many occasions, we were the profile team. And I wasn't being cheeky, I wasn't being rude, I wasn't being derogative, I wasn't being any of them. I was
Mm.
just saying that that was how we were seen to be. We were seen to be in the most professional off the pitch. We were seen to be in the most professional in the stadium. We were seen to be the best team on the field. And I mean the pressure, and I mean I mentioned what pressure is before, but I mean the boys that were in there, they had to lift to a different level. And when we came the first game, the, the opposition never really knew what we were going to be doing. Second game was very, very similar. But then all of a sudden, people started to watch what we were doing, and then they
Mm.
were targeting this player. I mean, like boys like Papa. Papa got kicked around, and he was given a real hard time because
Yeah.
he was a decent player. Emo was the same. Emo said to me one game, he says, "You know what? I never ever got kicked like this when I played in the Champions League."
Mm.
He says, "And I'm here in Nepal playing in the Super League." And he says, "And I've got boys kicking me around the park." And he says, "This is like a different type of football."
Mhm.
And I says, "Well, you've just got to deal with it as a professional." He says, "Yeah." He says, "I agree with you. I agree. I don't disagree with you." He says it's just a different type of football altogether. And I mean, in the final, he's got belted in there, right? If it was
Yeah.
on the street, that would have been assault.
Yeah.
But it's on a football pitch. It was maybe an accident. And I keep on saying it was maybe an accident. But
Yeah.
it's happened. And he's got like, he was like the elephant man for a while. He was like, "Arr." Right? And his teeth were all broken, and he did
Yeah.
exceptionally well to continue. But he
Mm.
he even spoke to me. He says, "God," he says, "these people," he says, "the ball's nowhere near me." He says, "And they're kicking me." He says, "They're kicking me because they don't want me to do anything with the ball." He says, I said, "Well, that's normal. You just got to get on with it." And many, many, many players said exactly the same. The
Mm.
energy levels seem to go from like 25% to like 150% when they played against us. And it was quite a remarkable thing. I mean,
Mm.
everybody wanted to beat us, and it's natural because we were
Yeah.
the possibly the elite team. You maybe describe it. I mean,
Mm.
th- the other teams, they had some good players. I mean, there was one guy that I identified. He was a left fullback. He played
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. Already, Ashish Chaudhary. He plays for national team
He
as a left
he's a
back.
de- he's a decent enough player,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He is a bit. I just don't think he's. I think he lacks possibly a little bit of football
Brain.
intelligence. I think he lacks a little bit of football coaching. I think he's never been coached before. I don't think he's been exposed to a more
Yeah.
elite
He used to
level.
he used to play as a forward. He used to play as a forward, and national team did not have any left backs possibly at that time. And national team coach thought maybe Sonis and him as a fullback will provide that up and down running and provide those channels. So I
Yeah,
think maybe he's young, he's young, and maybe he's double-minded. I mean, I'm just saying from the outside because he has played forward for so long that now he thinks maybe he isn't capable of the role that he's been given. And maybe, as a young player, you tends to listen to the noises around than just being there and doing what is required. So I think maybe that's the one of the reasons, because when I see him, and if he really works on the basics of the things, he can be all, he can start every game for Nepal as a left back. Every
Yeah,
game. He has the potential for it.
I think that you could possibly, as a back four, like Sinise, I think Sinise is very good. I,
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I think I think he, during NSL, I think he came into his own. I think he showed a lot of qualities. Um,
Yeah.
and I think his gameplay had improved immensely. I mean, Ananta. So if you had Sinise and then you had Ananta, now there was another kid that actually played central defender for who was it? I think it was Dungarry as well. He'd a fair head
Devendra
of
Tama.
hair.
Devendra Tama, captain.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's probably who it was.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he's there. You could play him at like left central defender, and you could play this other lad. And yet again, he played at Dungarry as well. So you could have a nice little back four there, and then you could have Sinise. If I was a national team coach, I would introduce boys like Bibik and have a look at Bibik in among these type of guys. Um,
yeah,
and then another player that I was like really impressed with at the end was Dinesh. I thought I thought he was like good at the end. I mean,
yeah.
he came into us at the beginning, and he was a bit stale, and he was a bit, "How's your father?" You know. But once he got into playing, and once he got excited about playing, I mean, we played him at the top of a diamond, and the
Yeah.
reason we played him there is because he could get forward and he could get into goal scoring opportunities. That was why that we played him there, and
Mhm.
yeah, he operated quite well in that area. But I mean, there are a few decent type players. I mean, there was a boy that played at Pokra, but I mean, he was very very left
Right
footed.
winger.
Yeah, but he's
Ayush
always
Madan.
on his left foot. He needs to work on using his right foot, and needs to be a little bit more aware of how the game actually is played. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, a couple of people spoke to me about him, and yeah, look, I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
if he wants to be at the elite level, he's got to add more to his game, because at the moment he's just. I mean, if I was to pick between him and Hengen, I'd pick Hengen every day, because
Mhm.
I know what I'm getting from Hengen. This other lad, he was just too inconsistent, and he's like too one-footed. Um, that was the way that I looked upon it, and I'm not being rude, by the way. I'm just trying
No,
to
no, no. It's
to be
positive
cons-
criticism, I think.
well,
It's
it's
positive.
constructive. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad you described it as constructive criticism,
yeah.
because
It's constructive
I just
criticism.
I just think that he's too left-footed, and for him to play at the elite level, and when I
Yeah.
say elite level, I'm saying to play professionally in another country, not
Mhm.
just Nepal. I'm talking about
Mhm.
going across to playing in somewhere like Malaysia, or like even India. But I mean, if
Mhm.
he's to play in Malaysia, he's got to be playing a lot better than what he is, because at the moment he's not giving you as much as possibly he should. But
Mhm.
I would take Engine before him, presently,
Yeah.
because I just think that I think there's a little bit more to Engine. The other lad, yeah, like I said, he's not a bad player. It's just that I
Yeah.
think there's a little bit
He
more
needs
to
to
him.
add more to his arsenal.
Yeah, he needs to improve. Hopefully that'll happen with maturity, and
Mhm.
we're getting more games under his belt. But definitely, I mean, you've got something there to work with. One thing that I do think that Nepal struggles with is a striker, and I think that all comes from in the NSL, NSL 1, NSL 2. You'll find that in NSL 3 will happen as well. Believe me, and 4, and possibly 5. That everybody will take in
Are you
40.
gonna be coach every time?
Am I going to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But every team will take in a foreign striker, and then that stops the growth. Now, here's an example. Like somebody like Kushel. If
yes.
Kushel's like a number nine, he's going to be struggling to play or get game time in Series 3 possibly because they're going to take in a foreign striker, maybe somebody like an Emu or somebody like a Papa or somebody like uh, there's a couple of dark lads that played for.
Ola Wale of his.
Yeah, so I mean they're taking in foreign players all the time, and then that's to the detrimental development of the Nepalese players. So I would be thinking that you'd be looking at reducing the number of foreigners in the NSL. You'd be looking at reducing the number of foreigners in the A division. Because if you do that, it'll give your local players a little bit more of an opportunity to play. And then in the development phase, you've got to get more local coaches. I'm not saying that there was a lot of foreign coaches in the NSL because I think there was possibly only two. That was me and the
Three, I
gentleman.
think. Chiton also had one.
See the
Chiton
one here?
Zappa. Yeah, Indian
Yeah,
coach. Yeah.
they had an Indian one. Sorry, I never knew. I was just looking at the skin colours. So so that was like so there was three. But I mean, you've got to get coach education. You've got to upskill these coaches to be part of the NSL and to be part of the A division. Now, where do you go from there? How do you achieve that? Is there a here's a good one for you. Good one. Could you get a sponsor that sponsors the development of coaches? So you could get a sponsor that comes in, and it could be anybody. It could be somebody, construction company comes in and gives $1 million. I've just used a figure, right?
Yeah.
Gives $1 million, and all that $1 million is for coach development. So you put your coaches through. So you get your coaches through into the A license, and then some of the A license coaches you take
Pro.
them and you put them on the pro diploma. And
Yeah.
that would be a way that you could enhance the education process of the coaches. Because to be fair, and I mean I've gone through it myself, the pro license is expensive. Right? The pro license is it takes you 3 months. I mean you go away for 3 months to different countries. Um, when I say that, I mean you wouldn't do it if you were I did it overseas. So I went to the country, then I went to the same country, and then I did an attachment in a different country altogether. So it does take you a lot of time. It costs you a lot of money, and unfortunately, some of the people are not getting the return or getting paid to what the qualification really is. So
Yeah.
they're not getting the money coming into their pocket, and they don't have the money that they can have personal development. So they need somebody like a company that sponsors these coaches to get through the system. And until you get better coaches, you're going to struggle to get the development of better players. And then the other thing is, yeah, again, I'll elaborate a little bit more on this. You've got to get better facilities. You need to be getting centres of excellence. You need to be getting synthetic pitches so that you can play in the monsoon season, you can play in the summer, you can play in all these times. Because without good facilities, you're never going to develop anybody because you're going to be playing on this pitch like what we started training on when we were at Lalitpur. And it was dangerous. I mean,
Mhm.
some of Jeff and Papa, when they came from Europe and they've gone, oh, wow, what's this? I says, let's just get on with it at the minute and let's see if we can move to like Enfa at a later stage. But there should be lots of facilities, and maybe even not lots, but there should be more facilities there than what there are presently, because
Mhm.
grassroots football, if you can create something at a younger age group, 12, 14, 16, 18, then they can be playing in the NSL by the time they're 18, just like your Kushos and just like your Rakis. They were given a go, and that's the future. The young players are the future in Nepal football. I mean, you should be looking at target in like 2030. So by 2030, so the next World Cup qualification, you've got to be looking at your Kushos and your Rakis to try and become part of the World Cup qualification squad.
Mm.
And there's a
Yeah.
lot more needs to be invested in these younger age groups because they are definitely the future. So that
Mm.
you can add them to your Anantas, your Shanices, your Cicis, your Danishes. You can add these young fellas to that particular group, and then you would have something that you could possibly be challenging to get to a further qualification stage for the World Cup.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think I really wanted to ask this. So you have just, I wanted to ask you what advice would you give for the youth development, but you have just said those things
Well,
what I really need to do. Yeah.
look, I can enhance a little bit more, or I can elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah.
You've got to have under 14s, you've got to have under 16s, you've got to have under 18s competitions, and you've got to have regional centres of excellence. So the best kids can all train together. So you could have, now I'm a bit naive here with the names of some of the places in Nepal, but you
Yeah.
could have an academy in Pokhara, you could have one in Dungari, you can have one in Bitterwell. Is that right? Is the
Yeah.
pronunciation right?
I stay there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could have these centres there, and all you really need is one mini stadium type of thing with synthetic pitches, and you
Yeah.
can you can, but it'll need floodlights because you'll need to play later into the night, so you're getting more usage of the facility. But you've got to have these young age group um, games because if you don't have the coaches, the game becomes the educator. So
Yeah.
it's all about competition. So if you've got under 14s and you've got a league, the game becomes the educator. Then all of a sudden, the coach who's part of that group, he wants to get coach education. So then he's enthusiastic about it. So then he'll possibly further his his personal development. And then if the clubs have got anything about them, they'll possibly support him partially, or they'll get a sponsor like what you were talking about earlier on
Yeah.
to pay for these coaches to get on these courses because, like I said, they're expensive. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time off of work. Are the coaches getting the same money as they would if they had a full time job? Well, I'm led to believe no. So I mean, there's got to be a little bit of a change in the thought about the coaching and about the
Mm.
youth development. So you got
Yeah.
coaching, youth development, facilities. These are all really, really important
Yeah.
areas for the development of the game. And if you don't develop these areas, if you don't address some of the problems, you're gonna drop from 170
Yeah.
whatever you are in the FIFA rankings to possibly 180, and that's a disaster.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I mean, you have worked in Nepal for 1 month, 2 months, and you have been engaged with Nepali players, Nepali people, everyone around. And when you said like we have to have more strikers, let's say, because we don't have strikers to play in NSL, don't you think there is a little bit of inferiority complex with Nepali players or as a Nepali as a whole? Maybe not going toe to toe against the foreign players. Sometimes you notice that maybe they are doubting too much on themselves, or there is
Yeah,
maybe
but
inferiority complex. How you see it?
that all comes down to education. That all comes to upbringing. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not blaming the player.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Um,
how the society has developed. That's my point.
yep. I mean the football ecosystem there is different. But like let's touch on the coaching here. I mean, you need to have coaches similar to myself. I encourage them. I install discipline in them. Um, I give them football and a little bit of football knowledge, a little bit of experience that I've had. Right, I introduce people to speak to them about what they've done in their personal football journey. Like I'll use boys like Papa. What have you done when you were in? What was it like when you were in Vietnam? And
Yeah,
I've let him tell the boys like Kushal and Raki, for instance. I'll use them as examples.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and they'll speak to them and say, "Well, this is what happened there," and then the players go, "Wow, okay." So, I mean, some of these little bits that I've how would you describe it? Assisted giving them information, and it's not information that I've given, not wording that I've given them. I know the player has been there, and I know what would possibly have happened there. So then I've been confident in actually letting them talk to him about it. I mean, it's all about giving them positive experiences, and it's all as a coach, you're trying to give the player confidence. You try to give him enthusiasm, commitment, dedication. You try to give him all these type of components, which are these components are like life skills. So they are going to be with them for the rest of their life. So if you're a confident kid, you're going to be a confident adult. Then you're going to be a confident parent. And then
yeah.
if you can do that to ten players, then they are going to do it to their next generations, and
Yes.
and that's going to be like a family DNA then. And then
Yeah,
you'd like to think that you could build on that throughout your specific city, and you
yeah,
could then build on it. It's going to take a long time, but
yeah,
you'd
yeah.
like
Of
to
course.
think that you're creating a better identity as a Nepalese nation.
Yeah,
Um, it's like football. I mean, Lilliput won, right? The people in Lilliput know about football. The people are happy. They're boisterous. Everybody enjoys it. If Lilliput never won, they would never have that happiness in the football environment and in
yeah,
the local community within the sponsors. I mean, the sponsor. Oh yeah, you sponsored Lilliput City, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, that was like really good and everything. So it encourages a little bit of excitement and things like that.
mhm.
And sports are sports a great life tool.
Yes,
It's a great
yes,
life tool. And for young people, and just like myself, I mean, if I'd never been involved in football, I'd have never been around the world.
yeah,
I would have never seen. I would have never been to dinner with the king. I would have never been with some of the extremely wealthy people that I've been with in their company. I would have never been going to this place and that place and the next place. I would have never been traveling in business class. And by the way, I never traveled in business class with Lilliput City, but I have traveled in business class before with other teams.
yeah,
Um, I would have never experienced all these type of things. But I mean, back to the Nepal football. Can we, and I say we because I do have an attachment to it, right? Can we try and build on it for the future? Can we try and introduce programs for under 14s, under 16s, under 18s, and then can the INFA can they then put a target 2030? This is what we're going to have in 2030. Can they? And you notice I've changed it from they to we,
yeah.
from we to they, I should
We
say.
do that. Yeah,
Um, can they put a business program or business plan together for the 2030 World Cup qualifications? That's the challenge. So you've got to say, well, how do we get about it? Have we got the
yeah,
money to do some programs? Where can we get the money from? Can we approach some sponsors? Can we get you on board as a sponsor for the World Cup qualification 2030 program? Can we put a name to it? Can we get some government assistance to it? I'm sure that there are ways and means to do it. How do you qualify for the Olympics? Is the Olympic program a important program? These are all questions that need to be asked and answered. And if you don't have the answers, ask somebody that does have them. And
yeah,
there's lots of people. I mean, I hear a lot of bickering and and all this kind of thing going on between different parties and that. Look, for football to develop, and I'm not just talking about Nepal. I'm talking about every country in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
These things happen. Put away the nonsense. Hide the nonsense. Just and then try and work as a positive for football. It's
Mhm.
difficult because I know
Yeah,
that there's a lot of money attached for certain people, and in different groups. But if football's to develop, there needs to be a lot of collaboration between the business world, because that's what the NSL is. That's why the NSL is the biggest league. It's because it's got some of the biggest, most powerful football people um,
in Nepal.
in Nepal.
Yeah,
I mean, the NSL model is the way to go forward.
yeah.
Unfortunately, the A division won't like me saying it, and the B division won't like me saying it. But the NSL is the way to go forward because there is a business model there, and
Mhm.
there is finances there set aside by these top business people. And there's only going to be but more people join the NSL because they see how successful it is. It's that successful that it couldn't fit enough people in the ground for the final. And
Mhm.
that's testament to something that's successful.
Mhm.
Who would have thought
But
at the beginning of the NSL that you'd have been locking people out of the final?
yeah,
You would never have thought that, would you? Because I
yeah,
mean, there would have maybe been at the beginning maybe 3, 4 thousand people, and at
yeah.
the end, within the surrounding area of the stadium,
Mhm.
you'd have had 20,000, 25,000 people milling around there, trying to get in to see something that was being spoken about all over the country at the time.
Mhm.
So yeah, again, that's it. The
I think,
NSL.
don't you think, like you just mentioned before, three, four players, only foreign player, we have to reduce the foreign players, and push Nepalese player forward to for the development of those players. But don't you think it contradicts with the business model? What how I see it is NSL is the pinnacle. It's the pinnacle. And when you say like when it combines with profit and loss, it combines with balance sheets. I think maybe the development plans doesn't go side by side. Like yeah, sometimes the better player though who have performed well in A division, they will get chance, and maybe the way you have given chance, some might get. But when it contracts with business model, I think, don't you think it would struggle a bit on the development part?
Look, you go to countries like the UK, so you go to countries like England, Scotland. They've got a development program, and if they can get one player that comes and becomes like a full in the starting 11 over a period of time, it's been successful.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I mean, was Lilliput City successful? How
yeah.
do you gauge success?
How do I rate success?
How would you gauge success?
For me, the way the timeline of this tournament is, for me, trophy is the success. For
Trophies
me,
is okay.
yeah, for
So
the timeline. But
okay,
if you can, in that journey, add things like young players giving the chance, having better style of play, being dominant, at least having the clear plans. It's not like player are confused out there. You understand me? So I will find that as a success. But if it's, let's say, 3 or 4 months, then maybe there will be better ways to develop. Maybe NSL should be 3 months or 4 months going forward. So even as a coach, you will have more time to work with the players, make them understand clearly, and don't have to maybe put your philosophy aside and go for the pragmatic way. How do you think about it?
see, yeah, again, I mean, I'm speaking about Lilliput City now
Yeah,
because I, I I know a little bit more about it.
yeah.
Let's go development. So we've got a few young players in the squad. Who else had young players in the squad
In Lalitpur,
in the NSL?
what do you say, in Lalitpur, where young players?
No, no, no. We had in Lilliput,
Yeah,
we had some young players in our squad, right?
yeah.
Who else in the NSL had young players in the squad?
I think
Don't have
Budol
to.
had a few.
Okay, so you didn't have to think too long. So there was maybe only one team that had some young players. Is that right?
Yeah, Budol had a few. Yeah,
Okay, so you've come up with like maybe one team. So we've had it, right? So that's for the betterment of the development of young players in Nepal. So we've ticked that box, right?
yeah,
So we've done that one. So we've had the best goalkeeper.
yeah,
We've had the best top goal scorer. We've had whatever
yeah,
it
yeah,
was,
yeah.
and then we won the championship. Then we probably had the best business model,
Mm,
right? Now we had the best business model, possibly. I mean, I'm not. I'm only surmising now because I don't know. I'm not privy to how other clubs run, right? So we had possibly the best business model as well. How it was
mm.
run. We had budgets. We had this. We had that. We had the next thing. Yeah, we weren't perfect, but
Yeah.
my observations were that we possibly were. We had the best social media,
Mm,
right? Definitely the best social media. The young lady that did the social media, she did it very, very well. And then there was a marketing team that was behind it for like sponsors and all that kind of thing. So I would have thought that this was quite new to Nepal because there was only one club that was more holistic than others. This was quite close to a model that you could have put into like a mini model, I suppose, that you could have put into maybe a country like Australia, or you could put in a country like the UK or something like that, because there was a
mm,
development component, there
mm.
was a business component, there was a success or a winning component,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
How to win, right?
yeah.
The football department was totally separate to the marketing department, but they were connected. And then to the social media, to the media department, they were connected because it was all part of the business model.
Mhm. Yeah.
So our Lilliput City was probably as close to, yeah, it would have been the best in Nepal because nobody else would have even thought about trying to link all these little sections. And social media nowadays is really, really important. If you don't
Yes,
have
it is.
if you don't have social media, and here's a guy that doesn't have social media, by the way, right? No Instagram, no Facebook, none of that.
LinkedIn.
No, no, I'm not involved in any of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I yeah, I don't. Um, it's important for the growth. It's
Yes.
important for the development of the club. It's important for the development of the club. It supports sponsors, right? It gives you growth in every aspect of football. The social networks. Yeah, you get your what you call them, keyboard warriors and all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you get all these type of strange ones, but it's the positives I'm taking out of this now. I
Yes.
mean, I believe that Lilliput was the strongest club in everything. Now, I'm not having a go at anybody. Please don't think I'm having a go at the other clubs. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
having a go at the other clubs. I'm just talking from my personal experiences. I know that we were strong in this area, that area, and the next area.
yeah.
There
Mhm.
was so many areas that we did some excellent things for the development of football. Now it needs to go another level, and it needs other clubs to join in what we've started and what's required for the development of the game in Nepal. And at the end of it, all the clubs like your Pokhras and your Donguris and your Bitterwells and your if all these people, if they all do something positive and similar to what we've done presently in Series 2 and
Mm.
Series 3, the national team's going to develop and
Yes.
you're going to get better players. And that's what it's all about. It's all about becoming a football nation. I'm not
Mhm.
going to have a go at cricket. Right? I'm not having a go at cricket here.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
But cricket seems to have progressed a little bit to the
yeah,
detriment of football.
yeah.
Football needs to start to think about itself again, about how it can capture and become a real force again within sport, within the country.
Mhm. yeah,
I still believe that football is bigger than cricket. I'm just saying that cricket is a,
yeah.
cricket is a sport that seems to be growing there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, football was always bigger here, but I think it's always comes down to what performs. And when I say that, what I really feel is those people who come to watch the games, they want entertainment. You know, they want entertainment, and if certain things wins, they're gonna support it. I don't think if we, as a Nepal, if we don't win anything, if we don't show progress, if we don't show progress in our under 16s, under 14s, women's team, Nepal has quite good under 19 women's team players, and now N5 under 16 men's league was going on. And if this team doesn't progress, I don't think we should force audience to come and watch us. I find this quite stinking. Like when we don't work enough hard to get better results and progress in a way, we are forcing for the support. I think we have to really be focused more in these development plans. Then byproduct audience will obviously come to support. As you said, for the NSL finals, it was surrounded with so many peoples, even outside. What does it show? If you do good enough, there will be the support. But I don't think without the efforts, demanding always, okay, where is audience, where is audience? I mean, audience have to see progress at some point. They have seen, Lalitpur City fans, if let's say Lalitpur did not play the way the Lalitpur played, those styles of play, those ambience, everything, I don't think Lalitpur City fans will be encouraged to come. You have to make them come with the way you play and how things go around.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're a smart person. If you're a business, and if you're a construction company, do you rely on handouts to be successful? You go about it, and there's business acumen to it,
Yeah,
right? So what's the difference between a business and a football club?
I think there is more. It's more connected to the society.
Yeah, but as a football club, are you just putting your hand out all the time to saying, "Oh, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this," or do you do a little bit of work to look? If you give us that, if you give
Yeah,
us this, we'll give you that. So if
yeah,
you give us some kind of um, funding, we'll
yeah,
give you in return, we'll give you exposure in our market.
yeah,
So I mean, I mean, there's got to be a lot of thoughts change
yeah,
about the game in Nepal in regards
yeah,
to it's a business. I mean, the club should be PTY. They should be yeah. They should be a business. Yeah, that's the way that it should be done.
yeah.
There
I
should
think that's what cricket did. You mentioned how cricket has overtook over football here. I think that's why I said, because cricket gave the results, then people started to, okay, this is giving the results, and that's why I think maybe when Nepali football starts to give results, I don't think Nepali people want to beat everyone, like, I'm not talking about those kind of results, just trophy. I think the progress, when you see, okay, team is playing certain way, we are progressing, our youth team is doing good, these are the development plans, and they see that, I think that way they can be motivated. Now I think football fans are quite demotivated around here.
yeah. Well, you've got to get the NSL's got people excited.
Yeah, yeah, of
Hopefully
course.
the hopefully
Yeah,
the NSL next season will have 14 teams minimum,
yeah,
right? And I've picked a figure 14 because I think that's a reasonable type of number.
yeah.
If you can play everybody twice, now you say
Yeah,
to yourself, "Oh God, what 14 teams play everybody twice, 26 games. The cost will be high. The stadium costs will be high. All the
yeah,
media costs, all this will be much higher than Series Two.
yeah,
But remember, you've got to grow.
yeah,
If you stand still, you actually go backwards. So
Yes.
if you're just looking for the same mediocrity, you'll go backwards. So you've got to keep
Yes.
on looking forward and forward and forward and forward. So if next season you had 10 teams and you played everybody twice, that would be a progression. I
Mm.
mean, maybe 15, 14 teams would be too many. But then
Yeah.
here's another one for you. To win the competition in the NSL, could you get qualification for AFC Cup?
No,
Why?
I don't know. I think you have to win their division.
Yeah, but that's what's the top league in the country? NSL
Yeah.
or A Division?
I think by the rules, it's a division,
Yeah,
And
but you've got to change the model.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I think how I look at it's. I think if I mean you said quite good in the last press conference after the finals. People's in Nepal has to put their ego aside and come and help the national. Yeah, I may remember your words. So that's exactly what it is. If the egos of people starts to grow bigger than the game, I think we will evolve backward. Obviously we will evolve, but we will evolve backward.
Yeah, look, I mean, the problem that we've got with the NSL is that it doesn't go long enough,
Yeah,
um, and then you can't retain players, etc., etc. So the model maybe doesn't, well, it doesn't suit like AFC Cup or things like that. But if it's the top competition that you've got in your country,
yeah,
wouldn't you try and force the issue to try and make it compete in the top competitions within the region
yeah.
in the
Yes.
AFC? So I
Mm.
mean, and then the other thing, as a in a business model, you're trying to reward success.
Yeah, there is a
So
motivation, more motivation towards it.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Again, I mean, you've got sponsors going to get exposure in different Asian regions. Um, Not that they would be prominent within the because I mean the AFC around the grounds and things like that. It's got to be AFC sponsors, and it's got to be AFC balls, and it's got to be AFC all these sponsored people. But you are still getting exposure as a sponsor of say Lilipur. If we played in AFC, you'd still be attached to it in some way or form, and you're still
Yeah,
getting a return. It's a return on investment. That's what
yeah,
you possibly would be
yeah,
looking at, and all these
yeah,
businessmen would be right on your back, or they'd be behind you saying, "Yes,
yeah,
you've got to get a return of investment." And yeah, again, that would be a possible other yeah benefit.
yeah.
You, you, you,
So,
you,
yeah, I really want to divert you from the youth development plans and focus on one of the most thing I think everyone even asks me when I analyze the game, and even I want to learn thing is how do you analyze the game when you see the matches? What's your maybe pattern of analyzing the games?
okay, but are we talking about my team or are we talking about opposition teams?
Opposition team, and you can both. Come on, I will get more knowledge. I don't mind. I both teams.
Well, look, I think of myself and I say to myself, "How do we play? What's our style of play?"
Mhm.
And I say, "Their style of play does it does it counteract us what we do? What do we need to do in our style of play to expose them and give us scoring opportunities or prevent them from scoring in their football moment of having ball possession? So
Mm.
I look at what we do, right, or what we are trying to do. Would it be effective the way that we play, playing against that team? And then on the flip side, in the transition moment, when they've got the ball, what problems would they cause us playing the way that we play, and how can we counter it?
So one of the most thing I want to catch on that for most of the times, Lalitpur played 4-3-3 and against Birgans 4-4-2 flat. But for qualifiers, again you have mentioned top of the diamond, Henson. So I mean everyone knows in 4-4-2 diamond you will lack man in a midfield in 4-4-2 generally. So diamond is more preferred. what was the thinking behind to move to 4-4-2 diamond? Like it was more to do with how you want to play, or maybe you saw opponent, all the opponents are quite struggling, and maybe this might be more concrete, or how you saw it to change for the qualifiers.
Ooh, good question. I we played against Kathmandu, right? So
Yeah,
we played against Kathmandu. That was a dark lad. What was his name? Nia?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Andres,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So he played at the bottom of their midfield
yeah,
three, I think it was.
yeah,
So I thought to myself, I said, well, if we play Papa and
mm,
Emu
mm,
on their central defenders, but on the outside, right?
mm,
And we played Henjin in the middle,
mm,
picking up the boy Nia, because they always wanted to try and get him on the ball,
yeah,
right? So I said, so we'll get Henjin, we'll just get him there, and we'll get him to close down, and we'll get him to be a pest, because the Nia kid, he doesn't like getting pressured, and he doesn't like boys coming in about him and harassing him and things like that. And that just happens when you become an older type player,
yeah,
right? It just happens. Look, you'll be old one day. So anyway, so we got the two central players. We got them. So we got Emu and KB. We got them to go on the outside of the central defenders, so that the central defenders would get on the ball, and all they could play was inside.
yeah, yeah,
And then Henjin was there to press and to eliminate that happening. Then we had the two wide boys. So we had the diamond. Oh,
yeah,
my diamond, right? We
yeah,
had the
yeah, I got
diamond.
it.
So Henjin was up in here. Then we had
Yeah,
Adikia here and Nikal here. And then we had CC here.
yeah,
Now, this one here, he wasn't going to get the ball. This one here in the dime in their triangle in the middle, he wasn't getting the ball. And this one, he wasn't getting the ball. So it was a case of trying to make sure that they came in through the centre, and they would just
mm.
turn it over, and they turned it over, and they turned it over. I think we beat them, what, 3-0?
3-0, yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I think we were quite convincing winners that day,
yeah, yeah,
right? And I think
yeah,
it was all because our game plan was to make sure that they get it in the centre, and then we can then close them down. And then where are they going to play? They can only play through the centre, and we've
yeah.
got 4 versus 3 in there, so we should always win it. So numerically, we should do quite well.
So my counter question is, if someone played 4-4-2 diamond against you, the way Lalitpur played, would you advise Andre Nias to join the defense line? Then invert one, maybe the way Sonis comes inside, one of the fullbacks inside, so you have more passing angles, or how would you approach the game if you were against the 4-4-2 diamond of Lalitpur?
If I was,
Yeah.
I oh god, no, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I was Pokera playing against us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I would always try and play into the wide area, into the fullback. That's exactly where I would try and play. So
Yeah.
you've got everybody in like that, and yeah, you got everybody in like that in the diamond, right?
Yeah.
The pockets of space are in the wide zones, so you've got
Yeah.
to try and get the ball into the fullbacks.
Mhm.
So that would be the out. But see, if let's turn it the other way now. So
Yeah.
you're the poker, and you're trying
Yeah.
to play that. Then straight away, I've
Second
got
balls.
like Adikia Adi, right? I've got
Mm.
Adi going and getting him,
Yeah.
right? So I've got him going out there. Then I've got CC coming across into there. Then I've got Hingin dropping in to pick up the one that was inside, and then we've
Yeah.
got then we've got that bit. Then we've got that.
Yeah. Then you got numerical superiority in the wide region.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was the way that I was looking at it all the time.
Yeah. And when I will always was Lalitpur, and I would always say, see, they know why they are leaving the wide space. Because what I would say is, when you play the long balls, it's always 50-50, and even when you have Ananta, it's less of a chance. So what Lalitpur are okay with it. If you can be that accurate with the long balls, then okay, yeah, opponent was better. With sometimes it happens. A long ball is quite good and misjudged. Okay, but oftentimes the way Lalitpur pressed, it was quite hard to play in the first phase for opponent. And I think,
Yeah, look, I mean, we were quite happy with with teams that played long balls because we always
yeah,
knew we'd always knew that we'd win the first ball and we'd get the second ball, whether it be small guys like Sanjit, because Sanjit was quite dogged. I mean, he
yeah,
he was quite aggressive and he could win a lot of first balls and then we could pick up second balls. So I mean, we were always trying to um, put them under pressure so that they would either spill it and we would regain possession, or
mhm,
they would hurriedly try and knock a long ball which was uncontrolled, and then we would win the first ball and then we'd get the second
yeah,
ball. Because
yeah,
one of the things that I always spoke about, and I always speak about this, we've got to get the second ball, whether it's in um, opposition or whether it's us in possession. I play to you. Who's the second ball? Who's going to get the next ball off of you?
mhm,
And I was always big on that. I was all like, it's okay. We've played the first one, but who's the next one?
yeah,
Who's going to be the second ball? Who's going to possibly be the third ball? But then yet again, it becomes like the second ball because I
yeah,
always describe it as a Who's going to be the second ball? Who's the next ball? And
yeah.
we used to speak about this all the time, and the guys really picked up on it. Because when it became the final series, there was some fantastic passages of play
Yes.
because
Very quick counters, and everything came from that press.
yeah, everything came from, can we
Second,
press? Can we harass them enough that they're going to turn over the ball?
yeah, and it is more of a, let's say, educational question, because recently when Australia played India in Asian Cup, Igor Stimac, the Indian coach, said Australia were better in judging the second balls compared to us. So let's say if some young guys, young footballer or even national team football is watching, what you would say to them about the idea to win the second ball? Being sure when it gonna be dropped. You know how one should think about it.
Well, sorry about that. That was the
It's
phone
fine.
going off.
It's fine.
It's all about being proactive. So the only from the first whistle when the referee goes like this, you've got to be switched on. So you're involved in every football action, every single ball that's getting kicked, right? You've got to be involved in this football action.
Mhm.
So whether you're in ball possession, so you're in ball possession, you've still got to be thinking, right, in the event. So say for instance we're in the middle third and we're entering the final third, right? Looking to score a goal. If you're a defender, am I in the right area for a transition moment? So I've got to be ready. And I spoke to Rabinder about this, and he said to me, he says, Coach, he says, not many people talk about that. I says,
Yeah.
well, you know, you can't have 10 people, right? Or you can't have 9 people in front of the ball. So if we've
Mm.
got the ball, everybody can't be in front of the ball. You've got to make sure that you've got a balance waiting for this transition moment.
Yeah.
So I mean, the transition moment's like really, really important because if you don't have people strategically in the correct positions, it's like
Yeah.
charge of the light brigade. They can just cut through you and away they go. But
Yeah. I think that's what happened for Kathmandu, I think, against Lalitpur.
yeah,
They
maybe.
forced too many people up, too many people without the consequences.
Yeah,
That
well, maybe
was,
that comes down to lack of team structure or lack of following
yeah,
roles and responsibilities,
yeah,
maybe ill discipline, maybe
yes,
lack of football experience or knowledge for that football moment. There's lots of things, and I mean, I'm not being critical of Kathmandu. Please don't think I'm being. I mean, I've never been critical of any club or anything that I've said in this particular um, podcast. I mean, I'm just saying that everybody's got to be proactive, and I used to say it to the players. I says, look, what if this happens? What can you do in that instance?
mhm,
Yeah, 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 you're right. I said, did you never ever think of that? No. Nobody's ever spoken to me like that before. I says, well, what if this happens? What can you do if that happens? What will you do when it happens? So I mean, it's like five W's, is it? What's the problem? Where's the problem? Who's the problem? Yeah, that's how it is. But I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of our players, and I mean, they'll tell you. I mean, I don't hide anything. They'll tell you that some of the knowledge and some of the football IQ that they gain from being part of our our group at Lilliput was quite good. And I mean, some of the boys, it's invaluable for them, particularly the younger generation, the ones that are on the incline, on the way up to becoming better players, because you need to be involved with good people. And like I said, I mean, over my years, I've been involved with a lot of good people, and I'm just fortunate to have been involved with them and use them as mentors. And I mean, I've got friends that I talk to about even when we're in NSL. I
yeah.
mean, I've got people that I spoke to and bounced ideas off of then, and I mean, I'm supposedly a mature adult, and I'm still asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, now I just want to ask you a few questions, so I won't take it too much time
Yeah,
from you.
no worries.
Do you have any favorite international club, like from any Premier League, La Liga, Scotland, Australia?
Lilliput. I'm a
Other than
real
La Liga?
no. Look, I mean, I'm quite a football. I'm open. I mean, I look at like the EPL. The EPL is the best league in the world.
Do you have anyone favorite in EPL?
At the moment, I like Tottenham at the moment because
Ah,
the reason I like Tottenham
vegans,
is because
vegans.
Postecoglou did some exceptional things at Celtic, and
Yeah.
not. And by the way, I'm not a Celtic supporter.
Ah,
Um, um,
but then-
yeah, well, let's keep it all quiet. Um, the Yeah, and he's gone there, and he's gone there to Tottenham, and he's done exceptionally well. Now, Sir Alex Ferguson, he did exceptionally well at Aberdeen,
yes,
above expectations, and he replicated it at Manchester United. So
absolutely.
the expectation level at Aberdeen is extremely high, and it'll never be met again. And the expectation level at Manchester United is exceptionally high, and that's never going to be met again. So
Hopefully, it's good.
yeah, look, Manchester United's never going to be the same club again. I hope it will be, but I'm just saying,
It's
as a
good.
eh,
It's good. I mean, I
yeah,
need to see some glories.
yeah, but I mean, I can't see them. I can't see them ever replicating the success that they had when Alec Ferguson was the manager. I can never see that happening. And I'm just curious now, and I look at Celtic with Postecoglou being there, and I look at Tottenham, and I can see the success level that he's gaining because I mean he got rid of, oh sorry, he didn't get rid of. I mean, one of the star players left in Harry Kane, and
Mhm.
there doesn't seem to be he doesn't seem to be missed. So his philosophy that he's introduced to Tottenham seems to be like really, really good. But I mean, at the moment, back to your question, the team that I'm following a little bit is Tottenham because I think they're quite. I'm just interested in the management, how that's working, and I'm interested in the style of play that's being created because they don't have as many, and I'm talking about mega stars is what some of the other teams that are in the top six have, like your
Yeah,
Salahs, your De Bruyne's, all these kind of guys. I mean, Tottenham have got a lesser profile group than these,
yeah,
and they still seem to be doing really, really well.
yeah. I mean, Hans Postecoglou, just even as a neutral, I mean, I'm Manchester United fan, but even as a Manchester United fan, when is when I watch him, he speaks. It just he has just an aura. I mean, I find too many managers robotic, to be very honest. Those answer they give, I just find robotic. I like press conference, just like how Mourinho used to do, and I find so refreshing to hear Postecoglou. The way he simplifies the things, the way he tells things. I just, I just like someone with personality. That's all. I mean, there will be football part, of course. There will be football part, but when I'm listening to someone, I prefer to listen to someone who shows more of a personality than the robotic answers. So I
Yeah,
do like.
it's enlightening. It's enlightening listening to him and his personal philosophy about how he sees it. How
So this is a bit personal question. I mean, not personal. If you could go back in time and give an advice to young Ian Andrew Gillan, what would you say?
um, be more careful at every penny that's in your pocket. I look. I mean, advice. There's so many different things. I mean, from something good from something bad, something good happens. Um, I mean, my life has been uh, quite fruitful, and it's been a roller coaster in many areas in my life. I would just let it be again. I could live it exactly the same. I could honestly, I could possibly live it exactly the same, and then tweak a couple of things along the way that would maybe be a little bit healthier for me. But no, I've been okay. To be fair, I mean, um, I probably wouldn't have changed too much. Yeah, there are some things you would change, but yeah, there's not one thing that really um, comes to mind straight away. There's nothing because I mean my life has been s- been okay. To be fair, has been a lot less fortunate than me.
Mhm. Yeah,
I hope
that's
I hope that's answered your question. It's a
yeah,
very
no, no, no.
useful answer.
Like even like no, like I just like to ask this question because maybe sometimes you feel maybe when you were younger, maybe if you just focus on that thing, maybe things have changed. But you have said like yeah, you will just leave it how it is. So that also shows the learning curve, you know, from
Yeah, well,
bad
look, I
habits.
mean, if if this had never happened, that would have never happened. If this had
Yes,
never happened, that would have never happened. If that
yes,
never happened, this would have never happened. If that never happened, I would have never ended up in Nepal.
yes. And
So
this podcast wouldn't have happened. So yeah,
correct, that's exactly right. So I mean,
yeah,
everything's happens for a reason. I just think that yeah, I think I've been okay here and there. Yeah, there's a lot of areas that I would have liked to have improved things, but like I said, without that, I wouldn't have been sitting here talking to you today.
yes. So at last, I think we are at the last. So what advice would you give to the Nepali young coaches, especially, and those ones who have aspiration to be coach?
Well, I would try and get onto the coattails of a coach that you respect and somebody that will mentor you and somebody that will share information because there's a lot of coaches out there that think that football's a secret society. Well, it's not. Football, there's no secrets. I think that coaches need to share a lot more information for the development of the individual and and the development of the game. So if you're an up and coming coach, try and get yourself in a group of coaches that are not backstabbing one another and not causing all kinds of nonsense and talking shit and things like that. Try and get yourself in a group of fellow coaches that are progressive for the game and want to improve as individuals, and you can feed off one another. That's quite important, and then get yourself like a mature coach. Had a it's been around a few of the leagues and had a little bit of failure and a little bit of success. Because remember one thing, you learn more from failure than you do
Mhm.
sometimes from success.
Yes,
So I mean, never ever think because you've failed. I mean, what is failing? I mean, a lot of people say, "Ah, you never won this or you've never won that." Yeah, but you've been there and you've been involved in it. Have you ever done it? And I mean, a lot of people will be critical, but they'll never put themselves in a place to be criticised. So get yourself, if you're an up and coming coach, get yourself involved with some good people. Get yourself involved. Don't be shy to share things, because if you share some things with people, people will share some things with you. That's the way that it goes. If you're a young coach, get yourself into coaching sessions, get as many coaching sessions as you possibly can, get yourself involved with as many good people as you possibly can. Don't get involved in politics. Keep away from politics as much as you can, because if you do that, then that's when you become tagged X, Y, and Z, and then that becomes, yeah, it can become a bit of a disaster sometimes for your career. But yeah, just get out there and coach as much as you can, and get involved with as much people as you possibly can, and share people and be as honest as you possibly can. I mean, I was always described as being too honest to the players. When I was, why are you so honest with them? I says, well, I treat people the way that I would like to be treated.
Yes.
And that was one thing that I was always big on. But you shouldn't be. I says, well, hey, I'm sorry, but that's the way that I do things. I like to be treated quite well, and I treat people the way that I would like to be treated. Um, and, and, and yeah, so that's maybe a little bit of my advice to these people, particularly your Nepalese guys. I mean, it's a small football community. You've just got to feed off of one another. And then the ones that are a bit naughty and want to talk a little bit of nonsense and all that kind of thing, yeah, just be humble with them and just be nice. Don't try and be rude or anything to them. Just accept them for what they are.
Mhm.
Try the good people need to. What is it they say? Birds of a feather flock together. Yeah, so you just got all the good ones have got to keep together, and then you'll just keep on improving as a group, and then hopefully then you'll be able to pass on as much information to the players as you can. But coach education is really, really important. And that's something that Nepal needs to look at. And hopefully you can get some nice sponsor or something together to fund some of the coaching licenses, because they are expensive. And I know that the disposable income there in Nepal is not high. So you need to try and see if you can get a coach education program that's sponsored by XYZ. And then if you educate the coaches, then they can spread the I'm not saying spread the COVID, but it could be like COVID. All that good information, you put it into here, put it into there, and it just everybody can get the good information. And that's like really, really important. Coach education is an area which needs to be addressed. And unfortunately, I've got no answer how it can be addressed. But if you address it, brilliant. Get some funding, get the coach education going, get the centres of excellence going, the facilities, and then you've got a chance of creating some really good players, because you do have some there. It's just unearthing more.
Yeah. So thank you so much for doing this, coach. I mean, from seeing you in the touchline and just sneaking what you might be saying to the players to interviewing you. So it's been quite a pleasure to have a chat with you. And I hope it was nice for you too. I would
Yeah,
love to
no,
know your experience about it.
yeah, no, it's good. And like I said, anything that I've said in the podcast, I mean, I've not been derogative to any club or player or anything like that. I mean, all I've done is mention a couple of things. Um, and I hope that people appreciate that. And I'd like to see Nepal improve and develop and be a force in the not too distant future. But it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. There's no. I mean, you look at the top businessmen in the world. They've never been given things, right? They've had to work for it, and this is something that I was going to say we then Nepal football needs to do, because it's
It's
no we
there then.
anymore. Yeah, it's
It's
not we
there then.
anymore. Because
It's
I'm here.
there.
Yeah. But look, I mean, there's been all kinds of talk about me going
Yeah.
here and going there. Um, at the minute, I can't. in fact, this afternoon I'm actually going to the hospital with my dad, so I'll find out a little bit more
Yeah,
about how serious things are, and yeah, if there's an opportunity to come and do something with you and see you face to face in the future, that would be great.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for doing this, coach, and hope everything goes well for you. Thanks for having a chat with me.
No problems at all. Thanks very much. Hey, what do you say in Nepalese? Like goodbye?
Thank. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Uh, goodbye. I just forget. Wait.
So, in
Goodbye.
conclusion of this podcast, if you were to say to me, da da da,
Da-da-da.
like you
Super.
would say, uh,
Yeah. Have a nice day. Have a
yeah,
nice.
but
I mean,
how would you say it in Nepalese?
in Nepalese, I'm lost. Wait.
I was trying. I
It's
was trying to be. I was trying to be clever there and say something in Nepalese. Then
uh, you can say namaste.
namaste.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say namaste. Right,
No.
it's freezing cold here. Stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you again one day in the future.
Sure.
Okay,
Namaste.
namaste.
धन्यवाद.
That's a word. Was it
Yeah.
dangrana?
धन्यवाद.
Dang
धन्यवाद. धन्यवाद.
dangrawad.
धन्यवाद. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Dangrawad.
Yeah.
Okay, ciao.